Hi everyone, welcome back to Extraordinary Moments with Anita, where we share heartfelt conversation that leads to healing and transformation. It is also a place where we unlock the extraordinary in every story. Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, and it's titled Healing Yourself from Trauma. Many of us are carrying invisible wounds that, if not addressed and addressed well, can pull us back or hinder us or hold us back from living fully. Today, my guest is someone who knows what trauma is, and she has experienced so many traumatic events in her life, and she's going to talk about how, not just the story, what led to her traumatic experiences, but also how she's been able to heal herself. And she's also going to be talking to you about how you can heal yourself. So join me as I welcome my guest. Welcome back, Anna. This is the third time we're having you on the show, and I just want to say thank you for always answering whenever we call, and a lot of people have been blessed by your story. The first time you came on, you're talking about the navigating life as a single parent, and then you came also on the show talking about breaking generational cycles, and here you are again, talking about trauma. People have reached out to me to say that I was going through this, I was going through that, but because of Anna's story, I know that I'm not alone, and I've been able to do this and do this to help myself. So thank you again for that. So as we go into today's show, into today's episode, we're talking about healing yourself from trauma. Before we go into it, can you tell us a little about your traumatic experience or traumatic story, and then we'll take it from there.
Hello everyone. It's good to be here. I don't take it lightly that we are actually having these discussions. These are very important discussions that we need to have as human beings. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, blue, whatever, wherever
you come. As long as you're a human being.
As long as you're a human being, these discussions, we need to have them in different setups. So I am so blessed to be part of this discussion, and privileged as well. It's part and parcel of living life, right? That we go through things in life. Sometimes when we are going through those things, we don't have a language.
You can't even express it.
You don't have a language, and that is the story, the backdrop of where I'm coming from. I did not have the language of what I was going through.
At the time.
Yeah. Not to say that I am the only one. There's quite a lot of people, especially from the continent of Africa. They don't have the language because it's never something that you often hear.
Because and it's not something that is often talked about in homes or in groups, so a lot of people shy away from it. Even when you bring up the topic, not many people are going to answer you because they don't even understand it themselves. They can't even answer you, so they kind of wave it aside, and as a result of that, nobody talks about it.
Nobody talks about it, but yet we have the effects of it, and a lot of people live with the effects of trauma, and they don't even know what's wrong with them, and other people around them, they don't even understand what exactly is going on, right? So my backdrop of this story, the trauma experiences that I have had so far in life, it started even from when I was actually conceived.
Wow, in your mother's womb?
In my mother's womb. The way even my mother was married is the part of the story. Because my mother is also a traumatized child.
Oh, wow.
So it's a generational thing. Again, we tie it together with generational curses, and then like generational issues that happens in life that just creates that life to become a lifestyle. So my mother is a trauma because she was born. Remember, I was sharing about generational curses where my grandfather was a diviner, right? So my mother being born out of that kind of a situation, she was actually taken away from her mother.
Oh, wow.
When she was young. And she was raised by her father and stepmother. And being raised by father and stepmother who are totally different. My grandfather was a diviner. His wife was just like his wife, right? And then she, out of the traditions and customs, she's the one now looking after my mother,
Who is at the time her grandchild, right?
No, stepdaughter.
Oh,
Yeah, because my grandfather left my mother's mother and actually was living with another woman, right? His wife, pretty
so
much.
that's the stepmother.
Yeah, that's the stepmother. So the stepmother having no education of how to treat a stepchild. Back home, you find a lot of stepmothers, they abuse.
Yeah, and maltreat.
They
their
maltreat.
stepchildren.
Yeah, back home, they don't consider that even abuse.
Yeah. They don't see it as abuse.
They don't see it as abuse.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So she was actually the one looking after my mother because my grandfather was working and doing his divination stuff, and you know. So my step grandmother is maltreating my mother. My mother never went to school. And I'm sure my step grandmother didn't even know that she was maltreating. According to her, she's giving this child the best that she knows how, right?
Yeah, and left her in the hand of somebody who's supposed to take care of her, but unfortunately wasn't doing so.
Exactly. So like when my mother now was rescued from her father's house by my father's family, my grandmother, saw this child being maltreated. So my grandmother went to get this child, right? And the only way that they could do it was to actually marry my mother to their alcoholic son.
How old was your mother?
My mother was only 14 years old.
Oh my Lord. God.
At 15 years old, my mother had me.
They rescued her and married her off to her.
Yes.
How do you call that rescue?
It's hard. It's hard for me now when I look at my mother's story. I feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for my mother.
She didn't have a choice. She was 14. That's still a child.
She didn't even have choice to begin with from the beginning of everything, right? She was never given a chance to actually be, you know, and she didn't even know why, right? So she was married to my father, who is an alcoholic man, who is also like already smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes. Like he was a chain smoker, my dad. Okay, so like this man, he was a loving dad. let me put it out there. He was a loving father, but he didn't even know how to. He didn't even know how to. He never fell in love with my mother, neither did my mother fall in love with my dad.
It was an arranged
so
marriage.
it was an arranged marriage, yes. So it was an arranged marriage, and before they even knew each other or to understand each other what they were doing, my father would get drunk and actually beat my mother while I was in this womb, right?
She got pregnant at that 14?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
She gave birth to me when she was 15 years old. Okay? So like that's the beginning, the genesis of the traumas in my life. But I didn't even know anything about that. I just grew up a very different child. You know, like I despised things like any form of abuse, like any shouting, any, you know, like I was apprehensive with any type of arguments and stuff like that, and I didn't understand why. and I hated any arguments, right? So having that, I didn't have the language to know that I was traumatized. And then I grew up. I was always like somebody who isolates, and I would be just like weird around people, and very quiet, was not like sure what is, like what is the right thing to do. And so like I would hang out with other people in the community, just growing up, just like any other child is growing up. But when I became a Christian, coming from a Muslim family, again, the abuses now are real, are happening. My grandmother this time, my grandmother is doing what she knows what to do. Like when you are the patriarch of the home and the child is actually deviating against the faith of the home, what
so she was against you
becoming a Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, so my grandmother did not like that very much. So like she started coming up with stories to make me feel guilty because I decided to actually become a Christian. And because I was young, they could not even blame it on my mother, but still they blamed my mother. So anything that I would do would be blamed on my mother, and anything that
there's an African adage that says when a child is bad, it's the fault of the mother.
Yes.
When a child is good, it's because of the father.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if the father wasn't there helping the mother to raise the child. But if the child is good, the father is the father's child. But when the child is bad, it's the fault of the mother.
Yes. So that was the kind of life that I had. And my grandmother would come up with stories like, because you are not following the family religion, you are saying this about me. So I'm not actually saying those things, but because I am not practicing Muslim, I am actually saying my grandmother is a witch.
Oh, that's what she thought? Or
that's what she thought. That's what I'm saying.
Kind of manipulating
yes, so that I would
emotional
emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
So like I would feel so bad. So like everybody would hear about this, and everybody's looking at me funny in the family, even those who don't practice. As long as they're not actually doing Christianity and they're just staying at home, they're okay.
You're not Muslim, but
they're okay.
As long as you're not Christian.
As long as you are not Christian. But if you become a Christian now, you are at war with grandmother. Okay. So like I didn't understand why. So to the age where I became of age, where I was taken, like Muslims, girl child, when you became of age, you are taken to a group where they train you how to become a woman, how to handle yourself, like etiquettes of a woman. It's a custom within the Muslim community. Whether it's a Muslim or it's just a traditional thing, it's something that my family did. Okay. So like when I was taken to that place now, in that place, my grandmother had the full range of me. So she was dealing with me now in that place.
Was she there?
Yes, because she was one of the elderlies that were actually training the girls.
Do you stay in that place for days? Like, is it like a camp, a group, or?
Yes, it's like a camp for girls, but who are being trained by these adults and elderly women who are training you how to handle yourself as a woman. So you stay there for I think we stayed there for a month or 3 months.
Okay, so after training, you come back home.
You come back home. Now you come back home. You should know how to handle yourself around adults. It's actually a good practice if it was done right, without like any other treatments that they do while they're doing that practice. It's kind of like just teaching a girl child how to become a grown up, right? For me, it was a different twist. Because then my grandmother had me to herself without my mother supervising, because my mother could not visit, right? So
that 1 month, she was just you.
Yes, and surrounded by her people, and surrounded her by her
opportunity. Without your mother's what's the word now? Objection.
Yes, objection, or even anybody noticing what she's doing. So like there was that subtle treatment that everybody would hear the whisper, she's a Christian. She's a Christian, So like, so why did you become a Christian? They will not bring it up as a question, but everything that they're doing, they're making sure that they spice spicing, like
must have
spiking
felt awful.
everything. Yes, and then to make matters worse, I have allergies with dirt, just like dirt. So like in that place, it was like a dirt kind of place, right? So I break out all over my body.
So
I had boils.
Were you meant to sit on the dirt? Oh,
a lot of activities that you're doing there, it's like you are kneeling down. Like, as you can see, my you see all these are boils. You can't touch that, but I'm just showing them to you because like all these are boils that developed while I was there, because like I had a breakout. Like
so you're meant to sit on the dirt. You have to kneel down. You have to do most of the activities.
Yes. Most
Did
of
your
it.
grandma know? Did she know at the time that you were allergic to?
No, back home you don't even know that you have allergies until it happens, right?
And even when you don't even know that it's called allergy.
Yes, I didn't even know that it was an allergy. I had no idea. A lot of things I actually learned when I came over here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm breaking out and I have all these boils all over me. So now people are feeling sorry for me now, and because I have these boils and I cannot do certain activities now because like I'm having one boil after the other, boil after the other. So my grandmother would show some kindness, but it had a twist to it.
Yeah.
Still
manipulative.
Yes, very manipulative. And she loved me, but there was a twist to it. She just wanted to make sure that I actually bent to do what she wanted me to do.
I mean, in all fairness to her, I think that she at the time believed that this was the best religion, this was the best way, and she wouldn't want her grandchild to, not to be on the other side of what is best at the time. So whatever she needed to do to get you back on the right track, quote unquote, if it's what manipulative love, whatever it is, she was willing to do it out of love. She actually loved you, but that was her own way.
Yes. So her own way was actually something that was hurting me without her knowing, right? So that's another story, right? And then then I actually when my parents were living together, they were not happy. So like the fights went on even when we were growing up. Now in my family, because they don't understand me, where I'm coming from, and being a Christian, and you're trying to steer things right, and you're also trying to live right for yourself, and you're trying to tell others, this is not the right way. I became a target.
And you were the only Christian at the time, right?
Yes, in my family, I was the only.
Family.
Yes. I was the only Christian, and I was a target. My uncle would consider me, like a child from a woman because I was like spoiled. I was the first granddaughter, by the way, from a male child. So like I was
which was a big thing.
It's a big thing. That's why my grandmother was like so much in my case, because like she wanted me to get it right. Yeah. So because of those things now, I began to question the kind of, love I was receiving from my family. What is going on? And God was in my corner. God was in my corner to the point where I became a Christian at a younger age, because God was now watching out for me, or He always was. He's always watching out for all of us. Yeah. But in my case, I felt like it was a special case. It was a special case because
considering where you're coming from and what's happening, of course.
Yeah. And He knew that I would go through these things, right? And that's why, like, at my conversion, like when I professed Christ, I was baptized with the Holy Spirit right away. And I was evident speaking in tongues right away before even saying, Lord Jesus, come into my life. When the word of God, yes, that was a special case. I had no idea why. But the things now that I had to go through is now confirmed later on in life right now, that I see that God knew that my life was going to go through all these things. And I needed the Holy Spirit in order for me to cope.
Yeah, so just, so that we'll bring it back to the main topic. How did all these things, what's the word now? How did all this thing, affect you, and you began to develop this trauma? Yeah.
How did this whole thing hurt me and develop trauma to it?
Yeah.
Well, when you are actually a child, or when you are conceived and you are beaten, or your mother is beaten, you kind of share the same emotions.
Because you're right there in her womb when she was.
You are sharing the same emotions. So without me knowing it, I was born afraid of things that I hadn't actually physically experienced by myself.
But you experienced it in your mother's womb.
Yes, because I shared that with my mother, right? Whatever she was going through while I was in the womb, we were sharing together. So like I grew up being afraid of all these things, and then like the atmosphere in my home of my parents fighting, like all this, it created that kind of fear of what will happen to my parents all the time, right? I was living on this hypervigilant, what will happen to my parents? If they get into a fight, is one of them going to get hurt? Are they going, like things like that. So like by the time I actually got to understand about trauma, that was when I was actually here. I was already a mother, and I have had many traumas by that time. When I learn about my own personal experiences, that I'm a trauma, and with that knowledge now, I started to process what was going to me, what I went through the lenses of God's word. And what that looked like, it was after I actually experienced something that was even heavy here, right? I'm now asking God, I never really went anywhere. I never did anything to deserve all these things. Why are all these things happening to me? That's when I started finding out that I also didn't even know myself. I didn't love myself. I did not accept myself. So I suffered a severe rejection, even from relationships. Because I was actually somebody who would enter in love or in a relationship expecting it to be my all in all.
So to be perfect.
Yes, I entered expecting perfection, but that's not what I experienced.
So can you say that what your parent went through, or what you went through in your back home in Africa, and with your parent and your grandparent, could you say that it had any significant impact in your life, either emotionally, psychologically, and otherwise?
Yes, what I went through in my family home, before even going anywhere else, what I went through in my family home has a significant impact towards how I, as a person, was being shaped into. Because I just didn't have language, but I was being molded by the outcome of the events that were taking place. So I knew how to be afraid, how to suspect, how to protect myself, how not to trust, and to know that even if it's a family, I'm not supposed to be comfortable around them. Yeah, I'm not supposed to be comfortable around them. So like I always had these things, and I'm sure it's a basic story for many people, that some of our traumas, we suffer them from even the homes where we are coming from.
For the benefit of those who are watching and benefit of all, can you just tell us in a layman's language, in a language that not a scientific one, just something so that we'll know that this is. So what is trauma? What does that mean? What does that word mean?
Trauma to me is when you are faced with challenges that makes it so difficult for you to cope. So you could actually face that challenge just for a few seconds. You could face it for a long period of time, but as long as it puts you in a state of just like having difficulties, maybe it's stressful, it's such a difficult situation that you can't even process it
at the time,
and then you might actually even become numb. Right? Trauma is something that can actually like make you not even want to think much about it, but it has happened.
Wow.
You want to just like continue. You know, like when you watch a spooky stuff and you want to behave as if you didn't see anything. You know, like you want to convince yourself that this thing did not happen.
It did not happen, yeah. But meanwhile, it happened.
It happened. And because it happened to you, and you must continue just going on, you have to convince yourself. You have to keep on going on.
Irrespective of how you're feeling or what's happening to you at the time.
That's trauma.
Okay, that's the layman's.
Yeah.
So let's look at
the definition of
the definition. So I just went to Google right now, and it says trauma refers to an emotional response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms a person's ability to cope. It overwhelms your ability to cope. You can't, cope with it. So what are the different type of traumas? It says that there's psychological trauma. It is a reaction to events that are perceived as threatening, harmful, or overwhelming. There's physical trauma. It includes wounds, broken bones, and damage to internal organs resulting from accident, violence, or other physical events. There is quite a lot of, let's not go there, but at least now we know what trauma is from the layman's language and from the definition, So I just have a few questions I would like to ask you, if you don't mind, just for the benefit of the audience who are watching. Now, many people, we talked about that, like I was saying, that many people hear the word trauma, but they don't understand what it truly means, right? And we have now defined the gotten AI or Google definition of it, and you've also told us the layman. Okay, so now I would like to ask you, what are some of the signs that someone might still be carrying unhealed trauma, even if they've tried to move on?
Signs of someone is still like dealing with trauma.
They've tried everything, like, I just want to move on, but there's still sometimes they even think that I have moved on, but something just triggers something, maybe a smile, a cologne, a laughter, like
you're actually answering your own question. Do you realize that?
Because from my experience, that was what I thought. 10 years later, 20 years later, I'm fully healed. But these little things come, and that's why I'm asking the question, because there's some people who are like me at the time would say, I'm healed, I've moved on, but there's still something. So if you could just tell us, you want me to repeat the question?
No, it's okay. Yeah. So some of the signs or symptoms of somebody who is still processing trauma is those triggers that you just said, triggers.
Yeah.
And it could be a voice, it could be a statement, it could be like just a feeling, like you just feel something. It depends where you were traumatized, right?
And so how you were traumatized,
as well. So like to talk about trauma, it's not like we are worshiping trauma and we're giving an excuse for people not to actually move forward. It's actually like for us to begin to understand that these things are happening to people, and as they're happening to people, others around them need to factor those things, because you know what, when somebody is truly going through trauma, they themselves, they don't even recognize that they're still processing, because sometimes it might be years after and you're still dealing, because like you don't get a time frame to say that now you are now completely out of the woods of dealing with what you went through 20 years ago. This is why,
like what I found out in my case, it's progressive. Healing is progressive. So you don't come out one day and say I'm 100% healed. I think it's progressive, right? It might be 10% today, it might be 20% tomorrow. The 30% might not even come until 10 years later or 5 years later, and then another 20 years later you're 50%. You're not, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I don't think you get to that 100%, maybe 90% healed, but I don't think, and it's progressive. It's not a 1 day thing, not 1 year thing, a 10 years.
Depending on the trauma that
that's my opinion about.
Depending on the trauma that we are talking about. There is sexual traumas and emotional traumas. Those ones are very, very hard, They're very hard. It can affect a person from having like a true meaningful relationship or marriage, even if you find somebody who understands, right? So say you meet someone who is able to actually say, they hear your story, they know that you struggle, and they actually are willing to walk with you in the journey of
all
life.
of you.
Yes. You find that it can be very, very challenging. You have to be now putting more work into your healing. You have to put in more work into your healing, because now you have to also know that others are trying. They are trying. You also have to try harder. You have to try harder, and also factoring that it's also affecting others, right? Trauma is something that you have to take seriously, and it's something that you cannot get over by yourself. In as much as I say that you can heal yourself, you need someone, and that someone,
community support or whatever it is.
You always need someone, and you will always need a bigger person than a human being. You need God. You need God, and I can never emphasize that enough. You need God in your corner to process trauma, because the people around you can also abuse you, because you are already vulnerable. You are already vulnerable, or you could also abuse others, because you yourself, you are a vulnerable person, right? So traumatized people are very delicate people to be around. So like the manipulation that we are talking about can also take place. When you are a traumatized person, you can also take advantage of other people because you're a victim.
Like
right?
you say, bullies bully others.
Yes.
And from my experience, I found that when you go through stuff, you can either go, that there's no middle ground. You can either go to 100% to the right or 100% to the extreme good or the extreme bad.
Yes,
because that's the only way you can process
that. That's it.
Yeah, there's no middle ground that can be half this, half that.
No.
You know? Yeah.
Which I find right now, me as a mother now, like it's a challenge for my children. They don't understand why I'm so rigid, and I have to be that way in order for me to be able to know where I am at. Because like you can't be in the middle ground of anything, because like you yourself, you were violated. So like because you were violated, now everything that I have to do, I have to know that I am on this side and I stay on this side. Don't make me go in the middle. Don't force me to accept certain things that I know that they actually are something that I am broken from. Right?
Exactly.
So like I had another trauma which was done by a female who violated me sexually, right? So I didn't know that I was actually being violated at the time when it happened.
Wow.
Right? Because this is somebody that I trusted. This is somebody that I was looking up to. Right?
So whatever she was doing, you thought it was right at the time.
I thought it was right. I had no idea that I'm being violated against. Right?
And you were a child at the time.
I was a child at that time.
Oh, wow.
So like I'm looking up to this person, and then they are actually violating me sexually. So these are some of the things that I say that you have to be on one side. Once you stand on that side, instead, because like if you find yourself in the middle ground, that's where we get crisis of people with identity confusion sometimes. Because some people,
and we see that in our society everywhere.
Because now you don't know
where you belong.
You don't know where you belong. Like now, do you identify with your abuser? Do you identify with who God created you to be? Because you are violated. Right? So when you are broken, you can't actually do it by yourself. You need God. You really need God. They cannot be anybody else but God. I was violated both by men, by a woman. So to me, it's something that is very sensitive. It happened to me. It happened to my children. A lot of people don't believe that they can talk about these things. Or while it was being done, you were actually told not to tell anybody.
In some cases, they actually threaten you. If you tell, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill the family member, and because you don't want that, you keep quiet. But what most people don't know is that silence is the weapon of the enemy to continue to perpetrate evil.
Yes, that is a camping ground for the enemy. And now you will be attracting more other people who can come into your life because you're quiet about it. More other events will be happening because now it's like you are walking with sensors. I'm available. Spiritually speaking, when you are violated, you are open. Okay.
The doorway has been open for the enemy to enter. If you're not careful,
spiritually speaking, you're open. So anything that wants to violate, it's like you are written like I am it. I am it. You can come to me.
There's a sign on your forehead.
Yeah, there's a sign on your forehead somewhere spiritually. Like everything that is bad, it can just like come to you because.
And then while all that is happening, you're wondering, why are these things happening to me?
Yes.
But there's already something that has been let out.
Yes.
In the spiritual. Like
that was me.
Yeah.
That was exactly me. It's like either this is happening to me, this is happening to me, and I'm constantly wondering why me, why me.
I remember something happened to me some years ago, and it kept happening and happening. And I was so convinced that there was a mark on my forehead. That because how else? I'm not trying to behave in a way that attract these things or these people. But no matter what I do, at the time, it was a big thing to go for deliverance back in Africa for everything that happened to you in spiritual.
Deliverance,
You have to go for deliverance. After several deliverances, nothing, it kept happening. I was so confused that there obviously was something on my forehead. So anywhere I go, people read it and then, they just come.
And do whatever they want to do.
But now I know better. But, okay, so thank you so much for answering that question. I have a few more questions if you don't mind. We talked about the signs that someone might still be carrying unhealed trauma. I don't know if there's one specific one that you can really mention that people can. I know you talked about so many things, but is there like one specific sign that people are still carrying trauma but they don't know, like what are kind of reaction or what is that thing that's
like again, we said it depends with the type of trauma that you suffered. So like the signs can be different depending on that, right? So like I will give you an example. Like I was abused by my husband, the father of my son. So like he would beat me. He would use arguments, like you're asking him something and he knows that he's guilty. But because he does not want to answer to what is happening, he will escalate, like he will get angry higher, and raise his voice and then become angry to the point of beating you because he does not want you to actually ask him. So he used anger.
He does not even want to answer. I'll tell you the truth.
He does not want to tell the truth. He does not want you to know what is happening. So he uses anger as a method of actually silencing me. So like anytime somebody actually does that to me, right, it's a trigger. And especially when I know that actually like what we are talking about needs to be talked about, and you are using anger to silence me, right? So to me,
and not talking about it doesn't bring a solution to it. Let's talk about it.
So to me, it's like that is a trigger, a very big trigger. And I thought like this is like 29 years or 30 years now. If somebody does that to me, especially like if it's coming from my son, I see the father
in him.
Yeah, and I'm like,
wow,
I can't believe I can't, like I can't deal. I can't. I was just like I'm
speechless. Like
I'm speechless at the same time. Like my inner self is like I can't. What is this? Like, wow.
Wow.
Because I know that this is not something that he would have to sit down with a child and say like, this is how I want you to behave. You know what I mean? So like I can't even say like he sat down and taught him how to be like that. So now when I'm hearing my own child, I'm like, he also was abused by the father too. So like the very thing that he hated in his father, that's the thing that he's also now having to deal with. Right? So when we are talking about the extremes, which side do you choose to heal from? So like you can identify with your abuser. and agree with whatever they have violated you with, and say that maybe that's who I am, right? Or you can actually fight for you to be you, who you are supposed to be,
The real you.
despite the violation, despite the violation, and that you need to stand very strong. Either ways, you have to stand very strong, because if you choose to identify with your abuser and agree to what they have done to you and say, like, now because they have violated me, now I'm going to become, in my case, I would have actually become bisexual, right? I can sleep with men, I can sleep with women. I choose to identify with my abusers that way. But I chose not to.
It's a choice you have to make.
You have to make a choice. That's how healing you are. You are actually now healing yourself to fight against what they're doing by changing you. By changing yourself. You can't change them, but you can actually change how you are receiving all these things. But you can't do it in your own strength.
Okay, I mean, that brings me to the next question. What is like what are the practical steps that someone can take towards getting healed?
So first of all, you have to know what actually was the trigger, the beginning of it, the genesis of what brought about this trauma. And which might be very difficult in some situations. In my own, I could tell what was going on, because my mom, it was like, it's a very easy trail that I can trace, right? For some people, it might not be that easy, right? But once you identify that, make peace with yourself, because in most cases, you didn't actually initiate these things. You did not initiate these.
It wasn't
things.
your fault. You are just
These are
accepting,
things
right?
that happened to you. You did not initiate them. So forgive yourself.
Okay.
And for the most cases,
Is that number 2?
Yeah, that's
number 1.
Identify
what's causing the trauma or what the trauma is. Number 2, forgive yourself.
Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself, because for the most parts, we find ourselves accusing ourselves. When you find out that this has happened, you accuse yourself. And if you played a hand in what has happened, face your truth. Face your truth. That one is very important. If you played a hand,
admit it.
Whether you are young, it has happened, but you perpetrated, you initiated. Because I can tell you, there are certain traumas that happened even within my own home, among my children, that one of the child actually like initiated the thing. So like, identify, and when you identify, if you were actually somebody who actually brought that thing into being, you need to admit and face up that truth. That is a process for your own healing.
I think that should be number 2.
And
then number 3 should be forgiveness.
Yes, then forgive. But you, either ways, you have to also forgive yourself. Even for that, you have to forgive yourself. So because when trauma happens, it hurts many other people. Just outside you alone, it's hurting many other people. And it has a long journey of things happening after that. Number 4, seek help.
Very important.
Seek help. You might not be living in places where you have professional people, but talk to someone. And you might actually start by talking to people who will talk about it negatively too. That you have to factor in, because people are people. You could talk to somebody with a leaky mouth. They don't know how to keep anything to themselves. They're gonna talk, and you have to be okay with that. Once you release your story, release everything from your heart. Just like how I share my story with you, I have no control over who's gonna say what,
who's gonna watch it, what's gonna be their comments or their opinion about me.
You have to make peace with that. When you release your story, how it's gonna be used out there, it's no longer in your hands. But what you need is to get it out of you.
So what is important for you to get it out of you?
Very important. Now, when you seek for professional help,
therapy or whatever it is,
if you reach to that stage of seeking professional help, you have to do that after you have already tried to confront your realities. Because what might happen while you are actually going through the counseling, I've gone through professional counseling. I'm still going through professional counseling. Sometimes it can actually be as though you are actually starting over again. That's why it's important for you to
feels like you're going through the trauma
again,
because you are made to go bring up things that you thought you have forgotten, or you don't even want to go.
Some of it you don't want to go. Surprised.
You don't want to talk. Yeah, some of them you'll be surprised
when you start actually releasing it. When you start unraveling everything, you'll be surprised what you might actually say. Even the things that you never thought that they were actually part of what's happening to you can come up, and then you'll be like, I can't believe this played a role. Yeah.
They might be small or seem insignificant at the time, but very mighty in the things that happen to you or how you begin to live your life after that.
Yes.
Okay, I think that leads us to the next question. So in your own experience, what role does faith or spirituality play in the healing process? Well, I mean, you hammering on God, so that's why I'm asking. So what does faith, spirituality, do they play a role in this? Or you could just, because there's some people who say, I'm not even a Christian, I'm not born again, I'm not all that and all that, so I can go get healing myself, I could just do this in myself. But so is there a role that faith and spirituality play?
Yes, a huge role actually. Life is spiritual. Life is spiritual, that it's so sad when I'm talking about it that I wish I had known what I now know, but because I didn't know, we can only work from where we are, right? So after everything and having gone through so much in life, I experienced a lot of spiritual interventions in the journey of healing. A lot of encounters, I would call them. I have experienced a lot of supernatural encounters with the Holy Spirit. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I can't emphasize enough that we need Jesus. From where I am, without Jesus, for me, my healing wouldn't have been possible. It wouldn't have been possible. Thank God that God gave us his son. I really am grateful, because Jesus, even after him being crucified for me, he said, I will not leave you as orphans. I will send you a helper. And this helper is the Holy Spirit. Now, I had encounters because of this helper. I had encounters. I would find myself talking to myself in prayer. And as I'm talking to myself in prayer, God will activate things through the Holy Spirit. And then what I have spoken is being activated, and I will have like resources, supernatural help. There was a time that I was surrounded by international people who were praying for me. None of them knew each other. None of them has ever met me. And this was after a trauma had happened in my home here in Canada. And I was,
you got goosebumps.
I was surprised by how God intervened in that season. I was going to a local church community. They could not actually reach out to me. Like we say that there's certain things that you can't just share right away because you don't even know what you're going through. That was that.
How do you articulate into words?
You can't put it in words.
You don't even know what it is that you're going through.
No, you cannot. But God showed up in a mighty way that he routed out people whom I did not know, and they started praying for me. They prayed for me for months.
Awesome.
I haven't met these people. I might not even meet any one of them. I met one from USA. Actually, she drove from USA to come and meet me.
Wow.
That's when we started our journey as friends. Like, I talk to her now. And the other pastors, the other people from different countries, I just know them, and these are my brothers and sisters in the Lord. God has resources, people. God has resources. So you are
so
not
you shouldn't
alone.
fight this battle alone.
Yes.
You shouldn't, do life by yourself.
You cannot deal alone. You cannot. So like, if there's anything, you need Jesus in your corner. You really need him. And that person of the Holy Spirit, like, it's just that person that we have.
Okay. So spirituality and faith do play a major role?
A big role. In my own healing, I can't tell you, like, there's no healing without Jesus for me.
Yeah.
There's no healing. And because, like, I already come from a place where a lot of spiritual things are taking place.
For someone who's watching right now and they feel overwhelmed, like, you talk about healing and things like that, and they're saying healing is too big of a mountain for me to climb, what would you say to encourage such a person?
Well, healing is too big of a mountain for you to climb if you are looking at your situation all by yourself. That mountain is yours, and that mountain needs you to challenge it. There's nothing that is happening in our lives is a coincidence. There are some, statements that I've heard people saying that God cannot give you something too big that you cannot handle. Everything that you're going through in life, I
think it's actually in the Bible, actually.
Yes.
God will not let you
He will not give you more than what you can bear, right? Because he's there with you every step of the way. So that's why, like I'm saying, like, you need to be a person of faith in Christ. Because without Christ, some of these like words will just be vain words to you. Because, like, if I tell you that God will not give you more than what you can bear, to you it's like it's already too much.
I can't even deal with it right now. It's already too much.
It's already too much. I can't even breathe, right? But I'm telling you, it's true. God cannot give us more than what we can bear. Because, like, he said that, and he's not a man that he should lie. So any mountain that you're faced with, it means that God trusts that you can actually go over that mountain, or that mountain can be melted right in your presence. Sometimes it's not you going to go over the mountain. It's you just like knowing your authority over that mountain and actually speak to that mountain in the authority that you are given. And then the mountain will begin to melt in the presence of the one who is speaking.
But you need to know your authority.
You need to know your authority. So the mountain could be maybe generational curses. How am I still sane, having gone through what I'm going through? Right? I actually went into a mental institution, believe it or not. Okay? I should have been sitting here with a pile of antidepressants. I should have been suffering a lot of episodes in and out institutions because it's already like something that I went through, right? So, like, how do you get through that? How do you?
I can tell you, it's not something you get through yourself.
You cannot do it by yourself.
I remember, a lot of people have asked, after reading my autobiography, Miracle in the Storm, they've asked me, like, how is it that you went through all these things and you're still sane, yet like you're still normal, like, I'm like, the kind of emotional and psychological trauma that I went through for years, even me, I don't know, I cannot even begin to say this how I was able to function, right? But one thing I know is true is, if it had not been for God, I would surely be dead by now, or gone nuts, or gone mad. I probably would be like a mad person on the street.
On the streets,
I know for sure if it was not. And the funny thing, the things that I wrote in my book is not even up to half of the things that I went through. But for the sake of people, you don't want to put, because even now people read and like, did that actually happen, or you just? So and they're amazed. And I have not even put half of the things that I went through in that book. I totally agree with you. You know, I know some people who are not Christians or who are not born again might not agree or might, you know, but I don't know. But this is my truth. That's your truth. Yeah. So
yeah, for me that is my absolute truth about going through all these mountains. There's no way you can say there's a mountain that is way too high. I felt like that. I don't want to lie. It it feels like you can't get over
I can do this.
I can't face tomorrow. There's no way.
Like, it's not. Many times have I cried and like, oh, and that's why I wrote another of my book. If my pillow could talk, like the amount of tears, my pillow. Oh my goodness, like. I'm like, I can't do this again. I can't live again. I try to kill myself how many times?
Yes.
Like,
There's no way. There's no way. Like when you look at these mountains of emotional things that are happening, sometimes you just want to hate on everything and everyone.
Yeah.
But because like there's no reason for you to love. Without Jesus, you can't love.
Yeah.
Because like you look at the people who abused you, and you are looking at them, and you're like. And you think,
and you know, it's possible you can even justify you not loving them. You can even justify you doing evil things or bad things, retaliate, revenge. You can just justify it because
you have every justifiable reason to do that.
So when you truly do love and forgive, that did not come from you.
No. Far be it that I have it all together, that I can actually know how to forgive and forget, and it's something that is coming because of that person of the Holy Spirit. He is a trusted friend. He is a trusted friend. The Holy Spirit is a trusted friend. I tell you this, even though like people, when I had a breakdown, they said that a woman had suffered a mental breakdown because she was praying too much. That was the story. Okay, so like I'm letting you in how I got my mental breakdown. It was through prayer. I depend on prayer, solely on prayer, and believe you me, I pray like a mad woman, because you know what? It works. I'm here.
It's someone. Oh my God.
I am here because prayer works. Many people prayed for me, with me, through. I can't even put it in any other words. Prayer does work. And the person of the Holy Spirit is a true friend.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's anything I do without the Holy Spirit, you know. To those who know Him, it is so true. And until you have a relationship with Him, and that thing begins to happen in your life, you will not think it's
You will not think so.
And let me, I just right now in my mind, I just remembered a situation that happened when I was back in school in the UK. So there was a time that I have this. I always tell everybody that I have a covenant with God, that I say I would take stock of my things and find nothing missing. Therefore, nothing in my that it belongs to me would ever get missing. Even when it's missing, I will find it, because I have this covenant with God. And they always laugh. And every time anything big or small is missing, I always find it. And so this day we were coming back from class, and there was a textbook that was mandatory for I think it was commercial law or something, I can't remember. And we had to do a very few copies of that textbook in the library, and we needed this textbook to answer the question, because the guy said go and get the rest of the information from the textbook. And so while the class was happening, I excused myself. I was trying to be smart. I excused myself from the class, and I went to the library, which was not too far from the class, and I got this book. And so I brought it back to class. And so by the time the class finished, we all got up, me and this lady, because we lived not too far from each other. So we were going home together. And then I forgot the textbook. There were only 5 copies in circulation that in the library
is looking for.
And in the class, we are like about 30. Right. So we're halfway through, just about leaving the school vicinity. And I remembered, I'm like, oh my God, guess what? I left the textbook in the class? And she said, oh, forget it. You can't find it anymore. And somebody, remember, I was the one who got it from the library. The stamp was there against my name. So if I lose it, I'm the one to pay. So she said, oh, forget it. This is the same book that everybody is looking for, right? How do you just put it on place it on a platter of good for someone and you think they won't take it? And I said to her, no, that textbook is not going to be missing. I'm going to go back. She said, don't bother going back because it's no longer there. I said, no, I have a covenant with God that I would take stock of my things and find nothing missing, except I give it out. And so she was like, yeah, right, please. So while we're still discussing, as I was about turning back, I heard my name. One of my colleagues started calling me, and I looked back and I saw him running towards me. And he said, because your name is, it's stamped from, and he's like, oh, look at this textbook. I think you forgot it. My friend looked at me like she couldn't conceive it in her mind. This girl or woman, this man needs the textbook. How is it that he's willing to give it back to me and not, and not use it for him? Yeah. And so she looked at me. I was like, I told you. And then I did the textbook and then I gave to her and then you passed it around and I returned it. And what that opened up for me to start talking to her about my the things that I went through and how God has helped me. Sometimes you need to have an experience for you to be able to believe something, because it's so good to be true. Until you have that experience, you probably wouldn't, I digress, but I don't know why I'm bringing it, but I think somebody needs to.
Oh, the person of the Holy Spirit is what made us actually talk about that.
So if you don't experience it, you might not understand it, you might not understand how it operates, and I think that's where there's a Bible passage that says that God uses the foolish things of this world to confirm the wise. So you think you're very wise, and God used something very foolish, and So that's it. So I think, and so for a lot of people who are still struggling in trauma, I think when we talk about the person of the Holy Spirit or God helping you, you might not understand it. And I do pray for you today that you have that experience, so you know what it is, because you need to have that experience for you to understand it. It's not something we can correctly articulate into words, for you to understand. So I think we've talked so much. It's already 1 hour thereabout. But if you are to summarize in a few words how somebody can heal themselves from a trauma, what would you say?
I would say, don't shut yourself. A lot of people are told to be quiet. Don't shut yourself. Like I said, you have to start the process. You have to start the process. You will know when it's time for you to start the process. Don't shut yourself. Fight the shutting down, because the shutting down, that's where a lot of people begin to self-destruct, talk themselves into something, like looking for ways to escape your realities.
And unfortunately, some people turn to drugs, smoking, drinking, sex, and different things.
Talk
like
about
a helping mechanism, you call it? But it doesn't really help. Because after all that, you're back to square one.
Yes, and for the most times, you are doing it from that place of being hurt. So like, it's no longer just you doing a leisure. You are now an abuser because you are looking for something that will numb the pain. So don't shut yourself. If anything, open yourself.
I'm talking in my case that I found is that it actually helps you, because you bottle these things up and it can lead to cancer. It can lead to body pain. It can lead to so many things when you bottle them up. But when you release them, it's like when I wrote down my book and I started talking about it, it was therapeutic for me. It was really therapeutic for me. So I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't talked to people about it, or haven't.
Journal. Write it down.
That's how it started. I was writing my story down, and then until I felt that God was asking me to write the book, because there are many people in the future who are going through what I went through, and they need to know that if He brought me out of it, He can also help other people. And it was therapeutic for me just talking about it. So I think, like you said, talking about it, don't shut down. It's really key. And then for me, I think I should add, you did mention it. It's I identifying what triggers it, identifying what that trauma is. First of all, what the trauma is, what is that thing? What is it? A psychological trauma? Is it emotional trauma? Is it a whatever it is, physical trauma? Is it sexual trauma? What is spiritual? You need to even begin to identify what it is, so that you can, because the kind of medication you're going to use for headache is not the same medication you're going to use for cancer.
No.
It's not the same medication you're going to use for inflammation and all that.
No.
So it's when you identify the real problem, what the sickness is, and then you can say, okay, this is the solution for it. This is the right medication. So I think, another thing is for people to identify what that trauma is. And so also, when you're in the process of healing, identify what triggers it, so that you can keep away from it.
Yes. Oh, you can know how to navigate yourself around it.
Yeah.
That it's not always catching you off guard.
Exactly. Because if you know what it is and you keep putting yourself out there in an environment where it always happens, guess what? You're never going to get your healing.
No. You will always be that triggered person, and people are always wondering, like, what's wrong with that? What's up?
What's wrong with this one? Oh wow. Yeah. It's such an amazing time. I don't even want it to end like
this. Right. We will definitely come back. I'm sure we will.
Yes. There's so much to.
There is more to cover, because there is also trauma in grieving.
Yeah. So thank you again for being on the show, and I look forward to having you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And thank you for watching.